We're going to talk in this video about what we call an accountability mechanism. Firstly, accountability. Doing what you say you're going to do to the best of your ability and executing. And if you don't get it quite right, you put your hand up and say, hey, this is where I need to do better. It's not making excuses, blaming other people or whinging and complaining about what's actually going on. It's taking ownership of something and executing it as best you possibly can and making sure that you know your job and you do your job 100% of the time. Accountability also extends to holding other people accountable. One of the biggest issues we see in a lot of teams is that athletes often see someone else perhaps not doing something exactly right, which they know is not going to benefit the team and in fact may hurt the team, but they don't do anything about it. And so being able to have an accountability conversation with a team member is absolutely critical if you want to reach the highest levels of performance. So we're going to talk about, just briefly, what an accountability mechanism is. Because you might find that lots of people talk about accountability as something that we want to do around here and have as part of our culture, but it's a lot harder to actually do if you don't have a process for it. And so a mechanism is literally a process or a system which helps you to be accountable. Here's a really simple one. One of the teams that we work with, they took this concept and they ran with it. And basically they created, under my guidance, we came up with a strategy where everybody writes down their job. So they look at, well, what is my role today? How am I going to execute this? How am I going to play my part on the team? And they literally write themselves a job description before the match. Once they've played, they come back into the change room, and the first thing they do is they start reviewing their job description and they start evaluating themselves in a score out of 10 for each one of those tasks that they committed to doing for the team. And they then share this information with others to take it to the next step. You then get the coach to evaluate yourself, and you may even get one of your team members that plays closest with you on the field to also evaluate your behaviours. And they can also then give you an indication as to the degree to which you are able to execute those behaviours for the team. This is what accountability is. It's saying that this is the job that I wanted to do, this is how I performed, and this is how I evaluated myself. Where perhaps one of those evaluations wasn't as high as what it could be, and you identify how that perhaps led to some errors on the field or cost the team in some way in performance, you then write an actual plan for you to make an improvement in that area. So you set yourself a goal, you develop a plan, and you put that plan into practice the coming week. That is what accountability is. It is a totally different conversation to a coach just saying to you, hey, you didn't do these things very well, you need to make adjustments here, you need to improve in this area, and this is how we're going to do it this week. That type of conversation is not accountability. The accountability happens when you start reversing the conversation, where you start being the one driving your own performance. We find more often than not that is what successful people do, and it's certainly what tough athletes do. So I challenge you to find ways to be accountable and to develop accountability mechanisms. The one that I just gave you is just one example. There are lots of other ways that you can do this.